You know what's funny about doing the work on yourself? Everyone talks about it like it's this beautiful journey of self-discovery. Like you're gonna dig deep, find your truth, and then suddenly you're free. Free to be yourself, free to speak your mind, free to live authentically. But here's what they don't tell you. Here's the part that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about healing and growth and becoming who you're supposed to be. There comes this moment. You're sitting across from someone you care about. Maybe it's your partner, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's someone new you're trying to connect with. And you think you're being honest. You really do. You're saying things you've never said out loud before. Raw things, true things, things that feel like they're bleeding out of you. But there's this hesitation, just a tiny one. Not enough for them to notice, but enough for you to feel it tightening in your chest. And you realize you're still editing yourself, still trimming the edges, still removing the mess, because deep down, you're terrified they might walk away if they saw you uncut. Do you agree with that? Or does it sound completely wrong to you? Look, if you're tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not, if you're ready to understand why being real feels so damn hard even after you've done the work, then you need to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because what I'm about to share with you might be the most important thing you hear about authenticity and why it scares us so much. Let me paint you a picture. It's Tuesday night. You're in your kitchen, maybe making coffee, maybe just standing there staring out the window. The day's been long. Your mind's been busy. And then your phone buzzes. It's someone asking how you're doing. Simple question, should be an easy answer, but you pause. Your finger hovers over the keyboard, and in that pause, you feel it. The weight of all the things you could say, all the things that are actually true. The fact that you woke up feeling empty again, that you're questioning choices you made 5 years ago, that sometimes you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back at you. But instead, you type, "I'm good, thanks. How are you?" And the moment you hit send, something inside you dies a little, because you know you just lied. Not a big lie, not a harmful lie, but a lie nonetheless. You chose comfort over truth. You chose ease over connection. You can smell the coffee brewing. You can hear the neighbor's dog barking outside. You can feel the cold tile under your bare feet. And all of it feels distant, like you're watching your life happen to someone else. Because when you're not being real, when you're performing even in the smallest ways, everything becomes performance. Everything becomes a show you're putting on for people who don't even know they're watching. This is what shadow work reveals. Not just your traumas, not just your patterns, but the 1,000 tiny ways you betray yourself every single day. The micro decisions to be less than you are. The subtle editing that happens so automatically you don't even notice it anymore. Your grandfather probably didn't talk much about his feelings, but when he did speak, it mattered. When he said something was wrong, it was wrong. When he said he was proud of you, you believed him. There was no performance there, no careful crafting of image, just a man saying what he meant and meaning what he said. Somewhere along the way, we lost that. We learned to speak in layers. We learned to communicate in code. We learned that raw truth was dangerous, that unfiltered honesty could cost us everything we'd worked to build. And maybe that was survival. Maybe that served us when we were young and vulnerable and needed to be loved at any cost. But now it's killing us slowly. This constant translation of our inner world into something more palatable. This endless editing of ourselves in real time. You see it everywhere. In the way people ask, "How was your weekend?" when they don't really want to know. In the way we say, "I'm fine," when we're falling apart. in the way we perform happiness on social media while crying in our cars, in the way we've turned authenticity into another thing to get right. But here's the thing about shadows. They follow you everywhere. You can't outrun them. You can't therapy them away. You can't meditate them into submission. They're part of you. The question isn't how to get rid of them. The question is whether you're brave enough to let someone else see them. Watch people in coffee shops. Really watch them. See how they sit when they think no one's looking. See the weight they carry in their shoulders. The way their faces change when their phone buzzes. The little performances they put on when someone approaches their table. We're all walking around with these carefully constructed versions of ourselves. These edited highlights. These safe, sanitized stories about who we are and what we've been through. And we wonder why we feel so alone. We wonder why connection feels so hard to find. You go to dinner with friends. The conversation flows. Everyone's laughing. Everyone's sharing stories. But underneath it all, there's this undercurrent of performance. This careful dance around anything too real, too messy, too human. You catch yourself doing it too, softening the edges of your stories. Making your struggles sound more manageable than they are. Making your victories sound less important than they feel. Because God forbid someone sees you as you really are. God forbid they see the version of you that doesn't have it all figured out. The version that still wakes up some mornings and doesn't know how to be a person. The version that feels too much and thinks too much and wants too much. You finish your meal, you hug goodbye, you drive home, and you feel empty. Not because the evening was bad, but because none of it was real. None of it touched the parts of you that actually need to be touched. This is the shadow work paradox. The more aware you become, the more you see how much of your life is performance. The more you understand your patterns, the more you notice yourself falling into them. The more you heal, the more you realize how much healing you still need to do. And it would be easy to get discouraged here. Easy to think that awareness is a curse rather than a gift. Easy to wish you could go back to the time when you didn't notice these things, when you could just be unconscious and comfortable and unaware of all the ways you were betraying yourself. But here's what I've learned. Here's what took me years to understand. Awareness isn't the end goal. Awareness is just the beginning. It's the light that shows you the cage you've been living in. But you still have to decide if you're gonna walk out of it. And walking out is terrifying, because once you start being real, really real, there's no going back. Once you stop editing yourself, once you stop managing everyone else's perception of you, once you start showing up as you actually are, rather than who you think you should be, everything changes. Some people won't know what to do with you. Some people will be uncomfortable with your honesty. Some people will prefer the edited version, the one that made them feel safer, more comfortable, less challenged. And this is where it gets painful. This is where the real work begins, because you have to choose. You have to decide whether you're willing to lose people in order to find yourself, whether you're willing to risk being misunderstood in order to be known. I remember the first time I told someone about my depression without making it sound manageable, without wrapping it in hope or progress or lessons learned. Just the raw, ugly truth of what it felt like to not want to exist for months at a time. The silence that followed was deafening, not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know what to do with that level of honesty. And I felt this urge to backtrack, to add something hopeful, to soften what I just shared, to make it easier for them to digest. But I didn't. I sat in that uncomfortable silence and let my truth hang in the air between us. Some friendships didn't survive that shift. Some people couldn't handle the unedited version. They wanted the highlight reel, not the behind-the-scenes footage. They wanted inspiration, not reality. They wanted me to be strong, not human. And it hurt. God, it hurt. To realize that some of the connections I'd treasured were built on performance rather than truth. That some people loved an idea of me rather than me. But here's what happened next. Here's the part they don't tell you about in the self-help books. The people who stayed, the ones who could handle the real version, the connections that survived that level of honesty. They became deeper than I ever thought possible. Because when you stop performing, when you stop editing, when you stop managing everyone else's comfort level with your truth, something magical happens. You give other people permission to do the same. You start having conversations that matter. Real conversations. The kind where you leave feeling like you've actually been seen, actually been heard, actually been met where you are rather than where you think you should be. You learn the difference between being loved for who you pretend to be and being loved for who you actually are. And once you taste that difference, once you experience what it feels like to be truly known, you can never go back to performing. But let's be honest about what this costs, because authenticity isn't free. It's not some Instagram quote about being yourself. It's a daily decision to risk everything you've built in order to become who you actually are. It costs you the image you've worked so hard to maintain, the version of yourself that has it all together, the person who never struggles, never doubts, never falls apart. That version dies when you start telling the truth, and grieving that death is part of the process. It costs you comfort, because performing is comfortable, hiding is comfortable, staying small and safe and acceptable is comfortable. Being real is messy and unpredictable and sometimes painful. It costs you control, because when you're authentic, you can't control how people respond to you. You can't manage their reactions or their opinions or their feelings about who you are. You just have to show up and trust that the right people will stay. And sometimes it costs you people. People who can't handle your truth. People who prefer the performance. People who need you to be something other than what you are in order to feel safe in their own lives. That's the hardest part. Not the fear of being vulnerable, not the discomfort of sharing difficult truths, but the reality that some people will choose the lie over the truth. They'll choose comfort over connection. They'll choose the performance over the person. And you have to let them go. You have to love them enough to let them choose what they need. Even if what they need isn't you. Even if what they need is the version of you that no longer exists. But here's what I want you to understand. Here's what took me years to learn. You can't be truly loved until someone sees the whole thing. Not just the polished parts, not just the healed version, not just the highlights, but the you that still doesn't have all the answers. The you that still feels shame, still feels rage, still flinches when touched too softly. The you that wakes up some mornings and doesn't know how to be human. The you that makes mistakes and has regrets and sometimes says the wrong thing. The you that's still learning, still growing, still figuring it out as you go. That's the person who deserves love. Not the performance, not the image, not the carefully crafted version designed to make everyone else comfortable. The real you, the unedited you, the you that exists when no one's watching. And when you find people who can love that version, when you discover connections that can handle your truth, when you experience what it feels like to be seen and known and accepted exactly as you are, you realize that everything you lost along the way was worth it, because you gained something you can never lose. You gain yourself. You gain the ability to look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back. You gain the freedom to speak without editing, to feel without apologizing, to exist without performing. You gain the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're not hiding anything. The peace that comes from not having to remember what story you told to whom. The relief of not having to maintain multiple versions of yourself for different audiences. You gain relationships that feed your soul instead of draining it. Conversations that matter. Connections that go deeper than surface level. Love that sees you and chooses you anyway. But most importantly, you gain the ability to love yourself, really love yourself. Not the version you wish you were, not the person you think you should be, but the person you actually are, right now, in all your messy, complicated, beautifully human glory. And maybe that's where real love starts. Not with the performance, not with the edited version, not with the carefully crafted image designed to make everyone else comfortable, but with the courage to be seen, the bravery to be known, the willingness to risk everything in order to be real. So here's my question for you. Here's what I want you to sit with. Are you willing to risk being misunderstood in order to be known? Are you ready to let go of the version of yourself that everyone else wants in order to become the person you actually are? Because that's the choice. That's what it comes down to. You can keep performing, keep editing, keep managing everyone else's perception of you. You can keep choosing comfort over truth, safety over authenticity, acceptance over connection. Or you can choose to be real. You can choose to show up as you are, not as you think you should be. You can choose to speak your truth, even when your voice shakes. You can choose to be vulnerable, even when it's terrifying. And yes, it will cost you. It will cost you people who can't handle your truth. It will cost you the image you've worked so hard to maintain. It will cost you comfort and control and the illusion that you can make everyone happy. But what you gain is worth everything you lose. You gain yourself. You gain real love. You gain connections that actually matter. You gain the freedom to exist without apology. And maybe, just maybe, you inspire someone else to do the same. Maybe your courage to be real gives someone else permission to stop performing. Maybe your willingness to be vulnerable helps someone else find their voice. Because that's how it works. That's how the world changes. One person at a time, choosing truth over comfort. One conversation at a time, choosing connection over performance. One relationship at a time, choosing love over fear. Think about it. Sit with it. Notice the part of you that wants to stay safe, wants to keep performing, wants to maintain the image you've worked so hard to build. And notice the part of you that's tired of hiding, tired of editing, tired of being anything other than who you actually are. Both parts are valid. Both parts are human. Both parts deserve compassion. But only one part will set you free. The question is, which part are you going to choose? And maybe you're not ready yet. Maybe the cost still feels too high. Maybe the risk feels too great. And that's okay. There's no timeline for authenticity. There's no schedule for becoming real. You get to move at your own pace, in your own time, in your own way. But know this, the invitation is always there. The choice is always available. The option to stop performing and start being real is always on the table. And when you're ready, when you've had enough of hiding, when the pain of staying small becomes greater than the fear of being seen, you'll know. You'll feel it in your bones. You'll feel the call to step out of the cage and into the light. And on that day, when you choose truth over comfort, when you choose authenticity over acceptance, when you choose to be real rather than right, you'll understand what I'm talking about. You'll understand why it's worth it. Why every relationship you lose, every comfort you sacrifice, every image you let go of is worth the freedom you gain. The freedom to be yourself. The freedom to speak your truth. The freedom to love and be loved for who you actually are, not who you pretend to be. And that freedom, that authenticity, that realness, that's where life actually begins. Everything before is just practice. Everything before is just preparation for the moment you decide to be real. So if this resonates with you, if you're tired of performing and ready to start living, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Because this is just the beginning of the conversation. This is just the first step on the journey from performance to authenticity, from hiding to being seen, from surviving to thriving. And I'll see you in the next video that's going to appear right here on your screen. Because the journey doesn't end here. The work doesn't stop with awareness. The real work, the beautiful work, the life-changing work is just beginning. Until then, be real, be brave, be you, and remember, you're worth knowing exactly as you are.